And hello, everybody. I just have a couple of slides I'm going to speak to give you a high-level understanding of the product. I'll probably be on the phone for about 20 minutes, and then I'll turn it over to Danielle, who will take you on a very abbreviated deep dive into the asset core itself. The FootPrints family is made up of what we consider to be two key areas. There's the service core, which is your incident, problem, change, config, and the like. There's also then your asset core, which is basically your endpoint management that allows us to do things like inventory, remote control, patch management, software deployment, and the like. Now, we've rebranded everything as the FootPrints family because the integration is seamless between the two components to the point where we stopped considering them separate products and we just sell the functionality based on what the customer needs. And I'll be demonstrating that here for you today. FootPrints has a unique concept known as workspaces. Workspaces basically lets you, as an administrator that owns the product, carve out the product to facilitate the needs of a particular department, be that facilities or HR or something outside of IT. But a workspace can also facilitate the needs or allow for a particular process to be placed into the product. And really a workspace is its own set of tables, it's its own forms, it's its own teams, users, workflows, and the beauty of the solution is that through a single login, I can have access to multiple workspaces, and my role can change based on the process I'm accessing. So I may be a change manager within change management, a level 1 technician within my service desk workspace, but let's say that HR and facilities are also using FootPrints as their solution for business process automation. Well, if I access those areas, now the product kind of contorts, and I'm now an end user submitting a request. FootPrints provides a variety of workspace templates to get you started for facilities, for HR, for IT, SOX control, for change management, and of course we also have an ITIL quick start template, if you will, that creates one for incident, problem, change, a configuration management database, post to service catalog, and underpins the whole thing together through self-service. Now, these workspaces, while they are able to be separated from a security standpoint, in other words, someone from HR, when they log in, would only see HR, it does allow, because you're doing so within a single solution, to pass tickets or share tickets between the areas. The greatest example of this is a new hire process where, based on a self-service user or a manager filling out a form, it may create tickets in IT, in facilities, in HR, all of which can have interdependencies, and when one is completed, it can kick off the other and give complete visibility into a particular process, such as the new hire. And the service catalog, as you see here, is kind of the glue that presents all these different work areas or workspaces as a unified front to the end user, because in the end, you want the end user to have a simple interface within which a single place to go that allows them to make a request of your organization, based on the principle of a service desk. It doesn't matter if it's IT or HR facilities. They want to go to one place, make the request, and have that go to the proper parties in the background. Tickets can be shared. You can report across them, across the top. So management and C-level individuals enjoy this architecture because they can run a report and look at any particular business unit or department and see how many requests they've made of all the different units within the organization and what perhaps the individual service levels may be at any given time. Kind of a marketing slogan here is that Numara FootPrints often becomes the center of the universe for our customers, whether it begins in IT and kind of leaks into the other areas or is purchased as a complete business solution. It really does kind of take on a life of its own. In fact, many of our customers, or I should say a good amount that I'm familiar with at least, have upwards of 100 processes or workspaces within the product. They 5 or 6 are IT-oriented. They might have a couple surveys in there, different departments, different forms like security access and the new hire, time tracking, timesheets, you name it, you can create it within FootPrints. And the beauty is that there's no development required. It's all point and click. There's a visual form designer to create your forms and the dependencies amongst them. And then through our point and click wizards for workflow generation and rules-based, you can pretty much do anything you need to do within the product. When you talk about service core or service management, these are the things that we speak to. Typically in a demonstration, I show the end user logging in and submitting a request, and then a technician resolves it. And then along the way, we can integrate with the asset pieces. Some things I don't often show but want to talk to very, very quickly. First of all is our email integration. FootPrints does allow for email conversation management, as we call it. Each workspace can have its own URL. It can also have its own email address. That email address, of course, can be monitored, as most help desk products or service desk products allow, so that an end user can send in a request, facilities at, HR at, IT support at, and that will create a work order, a ticket, an incident, whatever you call it, in the proper realm, which will generate or kick off some workflow and notify the proper parties. Now the technicians, whether they receive that email on their handheld or they're sitting at their desk and get that email, can reply to that email with a response. The response is received by FootPrints, the message is deduped, and just the response is sent back to the end user based on a pre-formatted template, giving them further instructions. Now along the way, we automatically toggle the status of that ticket. So from a management perspective or a queue perspective, I can see how many tickets are waiting for the customer, how many tickets are waiting for technicians, and so on. And this can go back and forth, all the while deduping the ticket so that the thread is very clean within the description of the ticket, yet you have a journalized date timestamp entry of all that back and forth that's taken place. And then we also allow for key values or name value pairs to be entered into the email to be able to perform advanced actions on that ticket. The example of this that I give is that a technician, upon receiving a thank you from the end user, can reply to the thank you email and say, "You're very welcome, status equals completed, time spent equals 10. That will update the time tracking, that will complete the ticket, and kick off whatever workflow FootPrints has predefined, such as the sending out of a survey. So email is a very, very important aspect of FootPrints from an end user perspective, and because of those name value pairs, it also becomes an integration point above and beyond the APIs and web services that FootPrints provides. How great is it just to tell your event management solution or your Atrium Discovery product or whatever you happen to have that, hey, if you discover something, go ahead and send an email to FootPrints and format it this way, and it will create a ticket that's pre-populated with any and all the data, automatically associate the CI, and start to build a history of those events to trigger and generate workflow. So there's a really good story to tell around email. Another element I always discuss is, of course, the mobile integration. We do have a mobile application for technicians. This allows them to go above and beyond the email that I just mentioned to you from an integration standpoint, look up the history of the ticket, actually fill out the fields. FootPrints is 100% web-based. We support all the browsers that are typically out there, including Firefox, Chrome, Internet Explorer, and Safari. To that end, the mobile edition is nothing more than a mobile-enabled version on the browser so that it fits to the form factor of your mobile device. It is not a app, if you will, but it does provide the enhanced functionality on a mobile device. So that's the service core part. When you start to now talk about asset, we do also track the cradle to grave, the life cycle of an asset, if you will. FootPrints handling the process behind the purchasing. Our asset core piece actually handling the financial components, the depreciation, and the like. Now, our asset core covers inventory from a discovery perspective, what's on your network. It does all the dependency mapping from a physical perspective as well as a virtual perspective. So I can tell you, here's my physical servers. These physical servers actually are a virtual host, and on them reside these virtual guests. We go down to that level. The discovery also allows me to see my routers and switches and draw those interdependencies for the purposes of populating our configuration management database. We then typically deploy our agents to those endpoint devices so that we can manage them. And when I say manage, we offer patch management, software deployment, vulnerability. We offer compliance management, which allows us to manage your security products. We have software license management, operating system deployment. There's just a variety of the things that this product can do, all based on the single agent running a single process. And the architecture also allows for remote reach to your endpoint. So we have a concept called Service Anywhere where I can take my laptop that has the agent on it, and while I'm inside the Houston office, I'll connect to a Houston relay, as we call it. But when I take my laptop home, regardless of whether or not I'm on the VPN or not, if I want to remote control that person or send them a patch or make sure that they're not vulnerable, our product has the reach to do that by creating its own secure tunnel, which is a very big advantage when you're comparing it to things like SCCM and the like. So it's a very, very robust tool, and Danielle will show you the console and go a little bit deeper into what it can do. What I'm going to now focus on is how the two products integrate from I'm resolving an incident, oh, here's your asset. From there, I can now perform some operations. Before I do that, however, just very quickly, FootPrints is often sold as a solution set. We consider things like service desk, lifecycle management. As you can see here, it's kind of an eye chart, I apologize, to show the value between the cooperation of the different products or modules. But in the end, the top four there, incident, problem, change, config, and service catalog, all kind of belong to the service core. You can buy them a la carte and then add on and or only go with our asset components, which encompass everything below that, being inventory, remote deploy, patch, device, vulnerability compliance, power migration, and mobile device management. So this is the home page of FootPrints. Now, I mentioned that each workspace can have its own distinct URL, and the reason for that is, from an IT perspective, you want a central login screen, but let's say that a different department entirely wants to get on board. Well, they don't need to be any the wiser that this is also the IT service management product. Some group, maybe it's security and controls, says, I need a product to track a widget and the process for deploying the widget and checking them in and checking them out. Instead of going out and looking for point solutions and dealing with the additional vendors, a smart IT individual that already owns FootPrints will just say, you know what, I have just the thing for you, stand by. They'll go into the product, they'll create a workspace for that group, they'll assign those agents or those individuals access rights to that. They'll provide it with its own URL, its own email address. They'll get the requirements from their department and create those fields in the workflows, and they'll simply then provide that department as the customer with the URL, which can have its own branding, the email, and say, here you go, log in. You're an administrator as well, so if you want to modify the forms or fields, feel free to do so. But the separation of the product in the workspaces allows for those different departments to own their own areas and not be able to adversely affect IT or any of the other groups involved. Now, we do support single sign-on, web authentication, LDAP. I have all that turned off, obviously, so that I can log in as multiple individuals within a single session. I've now logged in as an end user. Hopefully everything is keeping up for you guys from an internet perspective. Up on the screen in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see that I'm presented with what we call a global incidents dashboard. This is kind of like your outages, but it also gives end users a way to subscribe themselves to these events so that when incident management is fulfilled and a workaround is achieved, anyone that has subscribed will automatically be notified and all those child tickets will be closed. This also kind of ties directly into problem management, so I can see how many tickets were affected by this outage and so on. The end user has a knowledge base they can access. The knowledge base is rich text. I'm not going to go into it just for the sake of time. In the end, they can also submit their own requests. Now, the form and FootPrints can be designed as simple or as detailed for an end user as you'd like. Each field has its own permissions set, whether it's just for technicians, just for customers, shared by both, required for one, optional for another. Of course, the title, my monitor is flickering. The personal information dynamically comes from their Active Directory or LDAP. This is not a synchronization or an import. This is quite literally a real-time connect into an LDAP source or ODBC data source. Again, the fields that you present to them are up to you. I'm not the biggest fan of showing the end user my types of typing category matrix, but in this scenario, what I wanted to show you was a field's value can drive additional fields being displayed, and based on what you choose, additional fields can pop up to get those additional questions you need to ask answered, and also to provide additional information to the end user. So suggestive things, is it plugged in like this, a nice picture. Hopefully on the screen you can see the color differentiation as well, indicating that these fields are all grouped in one way, shape, or form. And then based on how these fields are answered, we can drive additional workflow. Maybe there's a knowledge base article out there already that when they answer these fields this way, this article 95% of the time resolves their issue. Let's go ahead and automate that back to the end user, change the status to waiting for customer, and you're starting to save time and money and show a return on investment from implementing self-service. Our description may or may not be rich text. Often when you do that, you're kind of asking for trouble. But we do allow them to do that. And a really nice feature that we've just added is, let's say they want to send a screenshot. We do allow for, let's see if I can do this on my new computer, function control alt print screen. Without having to save a picture to my desktop, go find it, where to go, I don't know, I'm an end user, I don't know how this thing works. We do allow for a nice copy and paste feature, as you can see here, which is often met with happiness by our customers. We can also attach files, documents, and the like. We can also CC our boss or buddy to keep them informed. In the end, of course, saving this to submit a ticket into the help desk. Give this just a couple moments here to save. When it returns, you are then sent back to your home page. As you can see, I'm also told what the request number is. From the home screen, I can view the status of my previous requests. If I wanted to access additional areas, I could do so from here. But more often than not, this will be accomplished through our service catalog. Again, kind of the friendly face of IT. And some of these graphics come with our template. The end user can also modify these as they like. And of course, the beauty of a service catalog is it gives the end user a single button click with which to understand what they're requesting. Of course, the service levels, the cost of the business, and upon requesting this service, fills out the form appropriately, which can then generate predefined workflow, perhaps getting the approval of the manager, which is integrated with our approval workflow engine. For the sake of time, I'm now going to log in as a technician. Technician interface is similar, however, there are additional dashboard components available to me. I'm an administrator, so I get to see these nice alerts. We'll go ahead and hide. All these dashboards can be configured. They are all drill-down capable, whether it's a global alert or request. And requests are a nice little widget which show you anything that's come in new that has not yet been touched by a technician, which is why you see these two here. If I wanted to go into my monitor is flickering, this is what the form looks like. I'm in what we call details mode, which does not put a record lock on the ticket, but allows me to manipulate it or view it or make a global or task out of it. I can view additional information and or I can just go into edit mode. Now, the moment you open a ticket that's been a request, it moves to the next active status. Typically, based on your role, you will only be able to move a ticket to the next appropriate phase. I'm an administrator, so I see all the statuses. But of course, that wouldn't be a very good practice. On the description field here, I can see what the end user submitted down at the bottom. I can add additional notes here. The description field is all the back and forth between you and the end user. We also have a nice quick descriptions area where I can have a salutation, left voicemail, kind of the quick little edits that you want to do from time to time. There's an audit trail that occurs. The end user submitted the ticket, a business rule fired, and then some notifications and some round-robin assignments were generated. When it comes to assignees, we do allow for a team-based approach. We also allow for what we call round-robin-based auto-assignment. And what that means is instead of assigning things based on user, we can assign to the team, and then individual teams can denote how they want tickets to be automatically assigned. Whether we use round-robin, which actually looks at the calendar, And if you're booked out of the calendar, it will bypass you, and this eliminates tickets going into a black hole. Now, the calendar is actually integrated or leverages the free busy information from Outlook, or that's a two-way synchronization. So all your meetings, all your out of offices, all that stuff, FootPrints is aware of that and will not assign tickets to you if you're out and not available. Default notification behavior is typically based on status. So a technician may receive a notification when something is assigned to them. The end user will receive notification when the status is waiting for customer. You define all those business rules. Again, the requester information allows me to see the requester data, but also a history of anything that that end user or anyone from his department has submitted in the past. In the information area, I have additional fields that were available to me as a technician. And again, these fields can be linked to a calendar, and it will block Don, in this case, out during whatever time frame if I actually say link it in the calendar here. So now Don is unavailable from 9 to 10 today. No further tickets will be assigned to him by our automation. We automatically track whether this was submitted via self-service, the phone, chat, walk-up, whatever. Service level data, response times and due times is typically based on priority, but it can be based on a variety of or a combination of fields. This user did not have an asset dynamically associated with him. If he did, I would have been presented with a dialog like this that showed me all of this user's assets. I could ask them to confirm the asset that they're calling about and backfill the ticket with this data. Now, this is often just a small subset of what our agent actually can determine. If I now want to know more about this asset, we have this icon here. And here is the integration now between our asset core and service core. From a ticket, I can do a deep dive and see all the hardware specs, make, model, serial number, asset tag, RAM, life cycle. I can go into the software. And we do support Mac, Unix, Linux, and Windows from an asset perspective. We also perform a security scan, which tells me things like open ports, installed patches, local admin accounts, do I have an antivirus, is it up to date, what about my firewall, things of that nature. Now from here, or again, back on the ticket, I can actually perform remote management of this device. Hey, my machine's running slow. Well, let's take a look at the processes without bothering them, without interfering with them, regardless of whether they're on network or not, to see if I can find some rogue process that I can kill for them and send them on their way. Again, this is cross-browser compatible, all done regardless of where I am, all done regardless of where they are. Of course, I do have to have access to that asset, but as you'll see here, the integration pops up. And what you're going to look at here in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 are all the running processes on the device. I can actually enable the refresh, so these things jump around like they would for real. I can sort by CPU, memory usage. We actually can kill processes. Of course, I wouldn't recommend it on my server. I can run processes as me, not the logged on user. I can also then say, you know what, I didn't see anything weird in there. Let's take a look at the services. Again, this is not interfering with the end user at all. I can right-click start a service, stop a service, change its startup type. Any and all of these actions also get automatically documented within the help desk ticket. And that is a key value add for the end user. Yes, you can integrate with other third-party remotes by passing the computer name field to an application or something, but having it automatically log the history of these events in a ticket is a true value add. Here, of course, is the CMD window I launched a moment ago. We do offer file transfers, my hard disk and theirs. And then lastly, let's say that I wanted to send them a patch or map a drive for them, or they asked for a piece of software and it was approved. I can do so through our Advanced Actions dialog. This allows me to access the power of the asset core and deploy Adobe. Now, the technician that's got this power may or may not know or care that, hey, this requires workflow. What does that mean? Well, that means that even if the technician pushes this button, it's not going to send it. what it's going to do is generate an email to this person's manager asking them if they may have this application. If they approve, either via email by simply replying and putting an X next to the word approve, or by accessing the self-service portal through an end user, it will automatically then receive that approval and then deploy the product through my solution. Now, as you can see, you can classify these things based on patches. Maybe there's device management, blocking Wi-Fi, blocking a port, turning a CD-ROM on or off. Very, very powerful. And in the end here you can see this. It automatically stamped the fact that I viewed the processes on this device, who I am and what time, as well as the remote control session, which lasted 25 seconds. So, complete documentation. If I were to then resolve this issue and move it to closed, we have fields that are based off of status. So now I'm required to enter in the root cause before I can save the ticket, which will generate a survey back to the end user. Hopefully you found this informative. The asset core itself can also be launched from the product. And Danielle, at this point, I think I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Adam. So what we're looking at now is the actual asset core. So this is going to have that kind of same similar feel that the service core did when we were looking at the actual inventory as far as the hardware, software data, along with also doing the remote control. There's a lot of components that do make this up, and there's some things that are out of the box that they're going to receive regardless of the product that they purchase. And as Adam mentioned at the very beginning of this presentation, there is actually 9 different products that do make up the asset core. Those entail inventory management, remote management, deployment manager, patch management, compliance, device, and et cetera. And we do have some data sheets for everybody to take a look at. Some of the things that they get out of the box is like an asset discovery tool, so that they would have the ability to determine exactly which assets are within their organization. So right from here you can see that not only are we going to pull everything as far as your workstations and your servers, we're also going to get your routers, your switches, and gather that information. Now we are an agent-based technology, so you would have to install the agent down to the machine. That's not saying that we can't do an agentless inventory as far as gathering the hardware, software data, but in order to do any kind of added functionality like the remote control or to do anything like deploying patches or software, you would need to utilize our agent. Now, our agent is a very configurable agent. We do go ahead and utilize different wizards, so it is a wizard-driven solution, and it's very configurable based upon what your customer needs are. What we do like to tell people is that it is one single agent, one process that does run on the end user's machine. So a lot of our competitors that we've worked with or that we've heard about say that they have one agent, but it actually spawns multiple processes. We actually only technically have one process that runs. Now, the agent is configurable at any point in time, so if they decide to go with inventory management today and 6 months down the road they come back and say they need deployment manager or remote management, it is literally a license file change. There is no need to ever uninstall and reinstall our agent. So it's kind of powerful in the aspect of is that it's a license file change. We get that up and running. We can also change the agent's personality at any point in time. So if today it is a relay agent like this master server is right here, this is considered a relay because we actually have devices that are communicating to tech support 01, which then communicates to the master right here. That tells me that it is an actual relay, and we are daisy chaining these together. So you can actually see the power behind this. And one of the powers with the relay is that I don't have to worry about transferring a package, let's say that's Office, 750 megs, 50 times down to a device at one location. I can just transfer it once. Now, we do offer things along the lines of like delegated administration capabilities. So with multiple locations, if, Joe shouldn't see, the devices at location B, you can actually set that up based upon what those rights are. And those rights do actually come forward over to the service core. So if they only have rights to remote control X machines, they would not be able to remote control anybody else's machines from the service core area. Some of the aspects that we do get is that device topology that you guys have been seeing here. Another aspect of it is, besides just looking at it, is from the asset core, as far as the agent being installed, we can actually see the connectivity topology. So actually giving graphical representation based upon the routers and the switches. what is truly connected to these routers and switches. I can actually drop in and actually get down even closer to look at that information as far as physical connectivity. I can actually see here, based upon where things are at, which router and switch, where things are plugged in at as far as when it comes to those devices. Some other things that we do have the capability of doing within here is that we can definitely do device groups. Device groups can be imported in from Active Directory or LDAP, but we can also manually build them and also go ahead and dynamically build them based upon certain sets of criteria. So if you want to know everybody that has Adobe 8.0 on it and update them, we can do that. We could create a group and automatically assign the actual a package directly to that group, where if anybody reports in that does have Adobe 8, they would automatically get upgraded, let's say, to Adobe Reader X, which is the latest version. Some other aspects that is very powerful, we do offer what we call the operational rules. These are actually the heartbeat of this whole platform that we actually talk about. This is where you're going to determine when you come in if it's going to be available within the actual FootPrint service core. So do you want to make it available to them, or is it just something that maybe you as the administrator of the desktops need to be able to see, and it doesn't need to be available to the actual service core, as far as the help desk technicians don't need to deploy out that information? We do offer several steps based upon the product that they actually purchased. Like for deployment manager, mounting network drives, as Adam said, doing any kind of advanced, reboot or registry management. All those things that people would have to create batch files for before in the past, they no longer will need to do that. So you can come in here and you can see like registry key management. They just need to enter in their information in here, and then also whether it's a multi-string value, whether it's string value or a D word, they can just enter that information in here. Also, an added benefit is what we call this right here is our Instant Expert. It can be turned on or turned off at any point in time. The great thing about that is that they never have to go and dig through our manual to find out what exactly it is. As you can see with these operational rules, there are several things that they can do just within, the operational rules. I love to tell my customers when I talk with them on the phone is that, those batch files that you already have in place, you can definitely get rid of those. You don't have to worry about utilizing those batch files any longer. We can actually do those things through operational rules. Some other things within the operational rules is that you can also do dependency. So if you need to daisy chain things together, so let's say you just put a brand new operating system on that machine utilizing our OSD, you can turn around and also go ahead and put dependencies. So as one thing gets installed, go ahead and do the next, and then the next, and then the next. So you can daisy chain them together. You can also go ahead and rest assured that any Windows products that need to be updated, they can utilize our patch management utility. Now, our patch management utility, just so everybody can kind of see this, we also, we do your third-party applications. So if it's Adobe or Apple or if it is Sun Java that needs to be updated, we're not only going to do everything that your Microsoft WSUS does, we also do the third-party patching. So we're going to go ahead and take it to the next level for the customers. And we also give you device count on who's missing what. You can come in here and you can say, I only want to see ones that, show, that are affected. I can see which ones are missing which products right here, and I have one. I can come in and see that device. So the tool itself is very powerful. We give a lot of different ways for you to look at information. That's just a quick kind of glance at some of the products that we have.